I think we're good. I think we're good. Welcome back to Travel Tales from the Nerdbirds. This is the weekend of February 6th, 2021, and I'm your co host, Rachel. I'm here with co host Kai and David. We're also debuting a video version of this podcast. So if you go to nerdbirds.co/episode 88, you can see us live, well, somewhat live, recorded live in front of a studio audience, because we're going to be doing a bit of a show and tell. And Kai, you came up with this topic, so fill us in.
Yes, so for today's design episode, we wanted to talk about anything to do with airline design that isn't nailed down. So we're talking airline serviceware, glassware, plating, pillows, textiles, anything of the sort that has an airline aspect to it. It's something that is probably a bit of an afterthought for in most people's minds, at least when they're traveling. But there is a lot of effort that's put into this behind the scenes by most airlines, and so we'll have a little bit of show and tell with each of our collections of items that we have.
Yes, and to give a little bit of context, I wanted to start with, gosh, this feels so Zoomish. Um, sharing sharing some photos to give an idea of why this is even important. So I'm showing a picture of a meal in economy class. This actually was on the flight to Pyongyang, North Korea. This was actually a lot of food, but it's not very exciting. There's some metal trays, there's some plastic trays. The bread has been shrink wrapped and placed on a plastic tray. And most people, when they think of dishware and other things when they're flying, they're just thinking, well, they're not thinking this because the reality is most of the nice, fancy stuff is really reserved for business class because business class is really what's bringing in, you know, the money for the airline. And we actually looked at a lot of articles that talked about the design behind a lot of this. For example, having heavy silverware and heavy glasses to give you that feeling of luxury opulence in the sky has to be balanced with flight attendants needing lighter, you know, things to move around. You also don't want heavy things on a plane too. I think Kai, you can attest to that a little bit more. So similar to fashion and flight, when we had to talk about the balance between fashion and the reality that flight attendants are there for your safety, how do you balance the two? A lot of that does come to play here with dishware and drinkware and all kinds of cool things that, as you said, aren't nailed down. I do remember a flight attendant saying that because I actually get to donate a lot of this stuff to an airport museum. And I usually ask the flight attendants, is there anything left over? Could I take something? And the joke was, well, whatever's not nailed down, go ahead. People do it all the time, apparently. Not that we condone those kinds of things on this podcast. So, with that, David, hey, we haven't seen you. Why? We haven't talked since our Palm Springs episode in December, which feels like 10 million years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So, what do you have? Well, we've both been to the airline memorabilia shows, and apparently there's lots of them all over. You can get a lot of this stuff on eBay, Etsy, even. And you started sending me pictures of some of the stuff in your collection. I'm like, oh, wow, I don't have much time. So, show us something that's a favorite of yours.
Yeah, no. Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, there's a ton of things I love collecting airline memorabilia. I think it's just, it's such an interesting thing, and it's a unique way to kind of, I guess for an airline or a company to have like an identification to, a certain demographic, I feel. But some of my favorites, I would say, coming into like a lightning round here, there's so many, so many that I love that I can think of. But the top ones that I can think of is really I think KLM does a really nice job
Mm-hmm.
with their work. This piece that I'm holding up here is actually one of their traditional business class um, nut containers. So this is usually what you'll get when you first board the aircraft. The flight attendants will bring this by of warm nuts, and just the intricacy design and the what I love about it is that how traditional Dutch it is as well. Like it's very modern. It's a beautiful piece, and it really kind of reflects the infamous Delft paintings that you see on porcelain in from Holland, which I think is lovely.
Oh, you so this is something interesting because I used to fly KLM a lot. So Delta, KLM, Air France, and Korean Air. I flew enough because they're part of that SkyTeam Alliance. I have a bunch of pictures of that. And this was a redesign by a famous Dutch designer named Marcel Vanders. So you have the nut tray that you have, but this is what it looks like all over all over being I guess these are different sized dishes for soups,
Mm-hmm.
stews. You can see this one had some quinoa in here as well. Um, this was probably the most interesting gluten-free meal I've ever had. This is a traditional Dutch dish. It has beets in it and currants, onions, and beef. I don't like beets. This thing was amazing. But you can really see the intricacy that the designer put into everything, including the tray. And Kai, I know you mentioned textiles, and Dave and I were like trying to find textiles. We didn't know where to go because you definitely have the edge on that. But it was really interesting to see how he just wove in that Delft design, and Delft actually is a town in the Netherlands throughout. So it's very interesting because before this is instead of nuts you actually got cheese as an intro if you wanted that, and they even custom printed menus for your particular flight. So this was really really fancy. I have a lot of these in here. So yeah, that's very cool. I definitely am jealous that you have a nut dish. So
Yeah. And one of my other favorite things actually from KLM too is the what they'll do to their business class passengers is they'll actually pass out at the end of the flight mini Delft Dutch houses, which I think is just so cool.
oh
And
yes.
it's very unique. It's I think it's one of the most iconic historic I feel what would you say amenities that you get on flights these days.
And it's
There's
filled
there's
with
not a lot of airlines that still do that, and it's filled
right
with a liqueur.
liquor.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
there's even a book about it now. So each one of the houses, I don't have any because I donated my entire collection. Each one of the houses actually mirrors something architecturally
Hmm.
important in the Netherlands. And when one of the last flights I took on KLM, I talked to the purser and I said, I'm making a donation to the museum. The museum only thought there was like one or two, but there was over 100 distinct styles. There's even a book written about it, and
Oh yeah,
they
they
managed to
change every
get me.
year.
Yeah, they managed to get me one that was the home of Anthony Fokker,
Hmm.
who is an air, he designed, I guess, the Fokker 100 aircraft, which I have flown a lot. And they're like, this is the man's house. Here you go. We just got these in. Nobody else has gotten one. And people just really love that at the museum. So I
The City
definitely,
Hopper,
KLM City Hopper.
KLM City Hopper.
Yes, yes. So I definitely, I'm so happy you have one of those because, like I said, I'm a minimalist, so I got rid of everything. But I wanted to just donate it. But you can even see his design here. This was a breakfast one. And I love the interesting half dishes because a lot of the dishware that I've seen, it's either just really round, really square, or, maybe
Hmm.
slightly rounded edges. But, we have scalloped edges here, and it's like a half moon in a sense. I
That's really
also,
interesting.
yeah. So I I definitely liked. I found that to be very unique in all of my different travels. So,
Yeah, the other airline I found to be kind of unique on that same level is United recently, actually, with their Polaris wear. I actually found to be very, very distinctive and unique, kind of on a similar level, um, where they actually really infused the logos and the design into their glassware.
and I guess they're salt and pepper shakers.
Yeah. Yep.
So Sebastian,
Their bowls are my favorite.
right. Sebastian got Charlie and I these because we all flew Polaris once, and he was like, "Oh, here's a little Christmas gift as a
Oh,
memory."
I'm
I,
jealous.
well, you can get them on the United store apparently. I honestly don't
Oh,
understand. There's one whole. What is salt and what is
One
pepper?
hole for salt and three for pepper.
There's nothing in them. That's so United. It's so terrible. But this is the Continental logo on it.
mhm.
And I thought that was a very interesting use. Now, KLM had their Dutch clogs as salt and pepper shakers,
Yes. Yeah.
and they're plastic. So, of course, I felt okay taking those. You should have seen all of my coworkers. They're like, "Did you bring extras for me?" I'm like, "No." And I'm keeping one for me. I'm donating one and keeping one this time because they were really unique. So,
Couple
um,
fun, unique salt and pepper shakers.
oh, JetBlue Mint
And that's the
and
Virgin one
And
on
the
the
Virgin America
yes.
little
airplane,
airplane. For
half
the
and half
life
salt and
of
pepper
me,
shaker.
I could not open those things without it all just falling out everywhere.
They're tricky, that's for sure.
Right. And that's a clear airplane. So Virgin Atlantic, they had silver colored
They have
ones
silver ones, yeah.
and black ones for premium economy. Did not know that. I took them all and
And on the
donated them.
underside, it's even printed pinched from Virgin Atlantic. So
Yes. That one isn't. That's a Virgin America, right? The one you have, David?
Yes. Yeah. That's Virgin America, yeah.
Yeah, see, they
Yeah,
know.
that's what they used to give out in their first class.
So, well, Kai, what's a favorite of yours that you've got on
so
hand?
my favorite piece, and I bring it out very rarely just because, it's a treasured piece and I don't want anything to happen to
Oh,
it.
we're going to be like genuflecting
Right.
home.
It is a this is a teapot, and it is a special design from Finnish textile company Marimekko, and they worked with Finnair. They have a brand partnership with Finnair, and so they recolored existing designs for Finnair and brought kind of brightness through the textiles to the entire cabin. I don't know if you've seen pictures, but the most recent like A350 interiors and updated seat textiles, they're all gray and with bits of white in them. So they're very basic, and so when you go to the aircraft, it kind of tends to look a little bland. But they use the lighting system on board the aircraft and then also the textiles in order to bring color to it. So then it allows them to change things, and so it kind of allows it to be a bit more timeless, which I think is kind of a clever idea. So, and this is wooden handled, and then it has, of course, in the lid comes off, and then it has, if I can show it, just so then of course you just put the tea leaves in there.
Oh, the
So
porcelain.
it's all
Oh,
porcelain,
that's
and
beautiful.
so it's
Wow.
really nicely done. And so that is a favorite of mine. You can get the teapot just on its own. It's called the Oivas, and Marimekko does make it, but it doesn't have any color to it. It's all white. So this was a special design for Finnair, and it was available through their duty-free shops for a very short or lengthy period of time. But the minute I saw it, I was like, I must have it.
And you know what I just saw? Gosh, this is something else that's interesting doing a video type podcast. You can actually look up things right away. So I'm going to share something really fast. So here's the teapot in in context with the teacup. Do you have the teacup?
I do not have the teacup. The
That's
teacup
very
it's a
cool.
different pattern. It's called Givet or Rocks.
Mm-hmm.
And so as you can tell just by the look of it.
I don't think
So
they
yeah,
have.
and that was they had very many different designs, and the whole overall partnership even did include special liveried aircraft on certain aircraft. So like there was one that had flowers painted on it. Then there's an A350 that actually has this rock pattern Givet painted on the back.
Oh, that's so cool because this teacup, if you are listening to the podcast, looks like they're not dots, but they're more like bluish rock. They're not
Hmm.
symmetrical, which,
A bit more oval.
yeah, it almost has a hand painted sort of feel to it.
And they were all originally hand painted because all of these designs were created by hand, by a talented team of designers, or designer from all the way from the 60s onwards. And so this is really kind of timeless classic Nordic design that has endured. And Marimekko, the company, has shops all over the world. In fact, you can even find one in places like Palo Alto and New York.
right, right. So it's very cool to see bold designs. I guess we're all fans here of bold designs, given how we all met in the first place. So that's true. We all met on the Virgin America final flight, and a lot of us were drawn to Virgin America because it was a bold product. And this is why we're also having a design series in our podcast. So, all right, we did a little bit of dishware. We did a little bit. Should we try and do glassware next? Boy, time flies when we're like, I'm just looking at the clock. If Brendan were here and
Time
Sebastian were
flies with
here, this would
design.
be going on. And I mean, we might have to just do a part two with their favorites because they have a lot of stuff. Like I was showing Brendan something from Continental Airlines from the 70s, and he sends me a picture of me. He's like, "Oh, that's in my kitchen." I'm like, "All right, whatever." So, David, you got glassware, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I got some good glassware. So some of my favorites are actually quite vintage ware. So this one I picked up at a collector's fair of the very old original Northwest Airlines. I don't know
Ooh.
if you guys can quite see that, but what this is actually it looks like a shot glass. That's actually what I thought it was at first, but it turns out it was a dessert. It was made for a small, like a yogurt parfait or a mousse dessert that was served on flights on Northwest with the original logo there, which looks like it dates back to probably the 70s or the 80s, I
Was
would
that
say.
Northwest Orient or Northwest? Because we picked up
Um,
some Northwest. I remember
oh,
this now because this
yeah,
was the that wonderful mechanic who worked for Northwest for like 40 years
yeah,
or something.
yeah.
He was just so happy we were excited. It's like take it all
He
because
said, please take it all, take it out of my garage. I said, sure. These are beautiful. He had a whole collection of these. I said, these are, fantastic shot
they
glasses and
stack
or
well.
great. They stack well. They stack right on top of each other. There's multiple of them. And they're actually great tea lights as well.
That's right. You can pop tea
Yeah.
lights and
You could pop a little
floating.
tea
That's
light in it
right.
and float it. Yeah.
Yeah, we even put floating ones in. That's true.
Great reuse. Yeah. So that one was, I don't know if this was used on the Orient brand. I'm not positive, but it very, very well could have been. But also with that is this amazing. Oh, sorry, we're going back to
Well, that's fine, but that's why I
non-glassware
was
here.
thinking. See, that's why I was
Ooh.
thinking Northwest Orient because remember he
This
had
one
a
is
lot
more
of the
Northwest Orient. Yeah.
yeah.
So this what you're looking at here to our followers here, if you can't see this, is a very vintage, made in Japan uh, for Northwest Airlines here. Sorry, you can see that. And it's a small, looks like a dessert tray or possibly a nut tray that's shaped in a flower, orange and white, and just gorgeous. Very, very 60s, very jet set 60s looking.
Very
Um,
ornate, but like
very
in a
ornate.
minimalist
Yeah,
ornate kind of way.
yeah. But kind of going back to the glassware too, some other cool pieces I have are the classic. Sorry, here, don't know if people can see that. It's Porter Airlines out of Canada,
Ah.
Porter Airlines. Oh, I see it
which
now.
is more of the modern, simple look. But I just kind of love the cleanness to it and just how
Hmm.
simple it is.
And the heavy
But this is
base, right? Is
the
that a
heavy
heavy
base. Yep,
base,
it's
right?
got a
That's the
very heavy base to it. So because all their planes that they fly are turboprops, small turboprops. So I think it's interesting that
bouncing.
having
More.
something with a heavy base, there's a lot of bouncing on those flights. So I think that's an important piece of the design to that. And of course, there is our beloved Virgin America. glass here as well.
Oh, look at that. I don't have.
Where's yours, Rachel? Come on.
It's in storage. I'm being nomadic at the moment. I mean, I do have, if we are talking about drinkware, now
Ooh, yeah.
this is a Virgin Atlantic coffee mug. Now Sebastian told me an interesting thing about this. It's only 6 ounces. It is smaller. When I held it, I was like, wow, this is really tiny. And it's funny thinking about sense of place. I love tea when I'm in Europe. When I'm back in California, I just cannot get myself to drink warm drinks. I think it's the sunshine or something. There's something with the energy here of stuff. So I did find this on eBay or Etsy because I donated the one that the flight attendants gave me. I'm trying to be a good, but I
Hmm.
love the steampunk aspect of
Yeah.
it. And and I love the little guy. He's a cloud that's in the shape of and it looks like an old British gentleman. And each side is different. So,
Hmm.
and it
They actually
shows,
have a whole series of those, if I'm not
yeah. And
mistaken.
this one was, I believe, so it says this was 2016, Dudson made in England. And
Hmm.
I flew them in 2017. So this was the closest that I remembered. And I like it. I just like the smaller size of it. I feel like it's something I could take with me. And again, it's unique because a lot of them don't have prints
For sure.
on them, except, Finnair Marimekko. I don't think I pronounced that properly, but, you know.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that you make about that because what I've noticed is a lot of airlines have tend to gone more to a more of a basic. I don't want to say brandless is not the word I'm looking for here, but a a very basic look to it that's not, that doesn't have any intricacies. Like I think it's hard to find airlines that really are doing something unique and innovative with design these days.
I
I
think
feel
what
like there's kind of been a
happens,
back step to it.
yeah, I think what happens a lot of times is that a lot of airlines will pull something from a specialized manufacturer just kind of off the shelf. And so it looks very, it doesn't, it lacks any branding or anything like that. There may be like a little bit of branding on the bottom. I know with like the Virgin America mugs that there was a little VA on the bottom, but that was about the extent of it. But the company, yeah,
Yeah, there it is.
the company that makes that Schönwald, they're based in Germany, and they specialize in making kind of a large amounts of these for different companies, and the designs can often be, sometimes a little specialized just because of the volume that an airline is going to ask for. But if it's something that can be tweaked minimally, that means really the cost is lower, and as airlines are for the most part almost always trying to minimize cost, those that really take
Right.
branding to the next level generally tend to be paying a bit more for that privilege.
And that's interesting because I looked up the Schönwald because, as you showed, like this is a Virgin America plate, but it shows it on there. It's actually a town in Germany, and you can order stuff for your hotel, for your retirement home, for your school cafeteria, for your airline. So I thought, oh, but you can't order these. So I'm very happy that I got these. There was actually, I think, a sale of these at one point because it's not easy to get this kind of stuff. I know Delta has their garage sale in Atlanta once a month, but a lot of airlines keep things private for employees only. And
Well, in those, large runs of items, normally the airline isn't even doing the ordering directly. For example, Virgin America had a very strong partnership with LSG Sky Chefs, the caterer,
ah,
and they're a Lufthansa group company. And so they're the ones that would have had the relationship with Schönwald in Germany and were the ones that basically took care of all of this, to the best of my understanding, to get all this set up for Virgin America.
oh, so I'm going to finish off glassware because everyone oohed and awed. This was SAS or
Yes.
Scandinavian Airlines. Let me
Mm.
show the overall food plate first. This was business class from Moscow to Stockholm. the mug actually, the coffee cup had a blue handle, and I'll get to that in a second. The the silverware was George or Jorg Jensen. Jensen. Boy, I'm going to get, hopefully none of my Nordic friends are listening in. Royal Copenhagen, um, I wouldn't say it's not porcelain or boneware. It's China. I'm
It's fine
showing.
china for
There we
sure.
go. That sounds good. But this was really fascinating. I believe this was a water carafe that they left with me, and it was Swedish glass. And it was so beautiful. So I really, SAS is not an airline I care for, but this was the first time I ever flew international business class with them, and I was so impressed with the service ware. So there we go. I think that there was the no, that really was a drinking glass because I see that was when I was in my Diet Coke, Coke Zero era. But I really did think that's a unique thing to have a colored handle. We didn't even really see any of that in the airline memorabilia show either, did we?
Mm. Yeah, no.
I mean, it's something so simple, and especially when I spent time in Copenhagen, seeing a lot of Royal Copenhagen China, that shade of blue is definitely very them. And so you would see very intricate patterns painted on a lot of their, you know, China ware and the like. And so I feel that that little kind of dipped handle design for SAS is the perfect balance of minimalism, kind of matching with SAS's brand identity, but
Mm-hmm.
also syncing with Royal Copenhagen as well. Like that is
Hmm.
exquisite. I'd never seen that before until today, and I absolutely love that.
I had never seen this. I forgot about it completely because this was in 2012. And on that same flight series, I think, speaking of bland, whatever, this was Aeroflot. And I mean, really, this is all a privilege to even be talking about this. So at a certain level, part of me is like, first world problems. But this is the design series, and we are looking for things that stand out. I don't think anything here on Aeroflot really stood out. Just doing a quick, except perhaps the sauce that went with the ceviche. I'm showing. Yes, it is really interesting. Or yeah, this is even better. Let's just put a plastic tray on a nice dish. So it is interesting. Oh gosh, the rice cake. We could easily do one about airline food, but just being gluten free, they seem to think we all love rice cakes, and that's the great substitute for bread.
Mm.
No. One time on Air Canada, I said, I could use some more rice cakes. And the flight attendant said, I'll be right back. And she came out with a stack this high because apparently the pilots were gluten free as well and they hated rice cakes. So they stripped all the rice cakes off of the meals they had gotten for this 10-hour flight and gave it to the flight attendant. And she's like, I don't know what to do with them. So here. So I wound up with an entire case of rice cakes I couldn't bring back to the US anyway. When I went through immigration, I was like, please, I don't want them.
This is going in the amnesty bin.
Yes. So let's see. We did dishes. We did glasses. We
We
sort of.
haven't talked about my
We need
favorite glass
silverware.
though.
Oh, your favorite thing? What?
Oh,
You haven't forgotten my favorite.
Oh, the important one.
Yes.
Yes.
So there's a story behind this, which is this was designed for Finnair. This is a Finnair business class glass, but it's also easily available in the regular market. Anybody could buy it, and I'll explain why. So this was designed by the Finnish glassware company Itala for Finnair's launch of their flights to New York in 1969, and this was Finnair's first intercontinental route. So there was a lot of things that went with this. The flight attendants wore a very specific garb. They wore normal uniforms on the leg to Amsterdam and then changed in Amsterdam to these very specific Finn hostess uniforms for the flight across the Atlantic. It was all very, space agey, in the late 60s as it is. And this was designed by pouring molten glass into a piece of wood. And this is kind of what came of it. And so these are all still handmade. by artisans in Finland, and it is transformed into Iittala's most popular glassware line. It comes not only in this glass, it comes in also the nut serving dishes, the dessert dishes, the appetizer amuse-bouche dishes, things of that nature. And it also is available in very large bowls. You can buy pretty much anything you want with this kind of pattern. And what's really clever about this is that it has a very heavy base, as we've talked about before, but also it can tilt. For example, there's turbulence or something, it can tilt, but it won't tilt any further than this. It will stop based on the design that's underneath. And so it's less likely to tip. And so it's pretty clever because with the heavy base, even though it's not likely to tip to begin with, in the event that it does, it's not going to go very far.
And I'm just looking up Itala. It's the Ultima series. Wow, these glasses are and dishes are very expensive, like $30 a piece. And just looking, if you can hold that up again, is that tree trunk thing. Just seeing that. I mean, I took a glass blowing Airbnb experience. It is hard to do just smooth glass. The fact that they could do that all in one setup is just amazing. So, but I love that the ridges are like a tree trunk.
Mm-hmm.
Did not realize that.
Beautiful.
Yes. Wow. Okay, that's
That is
very cool.
unique.
For
It's
sure.
timeless too because you wouldn't expect it was designed all the way back in 1969. Like it's one of those things that you can't place really when it was
Mm.
designed, just because it has that enduring look to it.
Right. Right. Wow. Okay, now we've been blown away with different glasses. And let's see. So did we want to do did we so we sort of did silverware a little bit when I showed some of the KLM stuff, which I don't have, which I wish I had. And I tried to find a lot of these designers do sell things, so I could get a KLM silverware set. I also don't have an extra $600 lying around for said KLM, silverware set. And no, that's how much it is if you want to get it from the designer new. And a lot of these collaborations with designers when Delta did with Alessi. I don't know if Finnair has a Mari Mecco book, but I know KLM has one with Marcel Vanders. There's a lot of interest in having, I'm sure Brendan has these books because Brendan has every single aviation design book I have ever imagined at this point. But was there anything else we're missing? What else do you have, David? Since we've got about 5 minutes left
Ooh,
before Zoom kicks us off. See, that's
sure.
another positive of, I guess, doing this. We have to have a time limit.
Oh, wait, I do have something really cool. Hold on 1 second.
Hey, that's a perfect time to put our ad in. Oh, that's how do we
Yeah,
do
now.
how do we do
Quick.
ads on? I guess we don't do an ad, or we do at the end.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know either. I guess the video won't have an ad.
Well, the video is not going to have an ad, but then we can always place it in.
All we care about is the podcast part.
Yeah.
And now for something very entertaining. Now this was
Here we
interesting.
go.
I'm
Sorry, guys,
just
I'm digging through the Ave Geek box here,
go
and
for it.
I've
Well, I'm
totally forgot
uh-huh. Oh,
that
wait a minute. Do I need to do the drum roll sound effect? No,
you need a drum roll. Yes.
I only have rim shot and ding.
So this, we're going back to textiles here, actually.
Okay.
So I have this, which actually is a document holder from Cathay Pacific. You can buy, I bought this on their duty free, and it's actually recycled flight attendant uniforms. So Cathay Pacific,
Oh. I thought it looked
if
familiar.
you're not familiar, so they tend to wear all their flight uniforms are red. It's a bright red with gold. And so what they've done is they've created this limited series. You can see it here. That's actually a document holder. So completely made out of recycled flight attendant uniforms that you can easily slip. It actually works perfect for an iPhone. You can just stick it in there. Kind of cool.
Oh,
So this is a cool piece that I had that I totally forgot about bringing out earlier, but really interesting, unique thing, I feel. It definitely obviously has that identity of the airline and the place, which I think is really cool. But so that's one thing. Other things that I have, let's see.
Oh, you've got your
Um,
Marimekko amenity kit, Kai. You can
I
show that while David
do.
pulls out his
Yes.
next bag of
It's a
tricks.
similar
yeah.
pattern, and this is in a very bright green. And
Ooh.
so it's really nice. It has like a
Oh,
lot of times it
cool.
has a very nice, like sometimes like attention to details with this really thick zipper. When a lot of times it's very minimalist, it's very nice. And then it has a very, you can see right here, Muddy Mecco for Finnair. So and they have different
Very
patterns.
cool.
And so the amenity kits will change, from route to route and flight to flight. So there's always, and even, you can get different kinds just in the same flight. And so they'll have different patterns that you can pick from. And
All
so that's
right.
something that's always,
Well, it's the same with the JetBlue Mint, which is their
yes.
business class. Oh, look at this. We got our Hayward and Hopper. Which one is that Hayward or Hopper do you have?
This is Hopper.
And
Yep,
this
this
is
is the Hopper one.
Hayward. There we go.
You can see that.
Yes. And so they do change them every season. A lot of airlines do this too. And I love these bags, except, oh,
Socks.
I want
The
those. I need
socks.
more JetBlue.
The
No,
socks.
I need those. They don't make them anymore. Those are the only socks I wear. But my problem is, as a frequent traveler, though, I need the Delta mesh. So Delta actually had a clear mesh pouch for one of their business class kits. And for me, mesh is important so I can see what's in here. If I don't see it, it doesn't exist. We've got 2.5 minutes. David, show us some more stuff.
Cool. All right, let's see. What else have I got here?
Because I might have the
So for
Delta mesh, but it's not very
silverware,
exciting.
I actually have these very cool. This is very, very actually true to the area as well. Japan Airlines silverware. If you guys can see this,
Yeah.
it's very minimal. It is. It's very, but I feel like it's a very true to a Japanese design of simple, elegant, but very modern. Um, you can see it's inscribed there with. Sorry, I'm trying to hold this up here.
Jowl.
Jow on the fork and spoon there. But you can see it's kind of, it's
Oh, that's the
very,
old and
very
new
simple.
logo.
It's the old and new,
Oh.
yeah.
Oh, less than a minute. All right, I guess we're going to have to wrap this up. Yay, we did it. I think we did a first pass at a video podcast. Thanks for joining us today, and let us know what you think. Go to nerdbirds.co and drop us a comment. If this is a good idea, should we keep doing this? And I guess we'll just run out the clock. I can press, I can